This is Fred at Custom Checkering, and today we're going to completely disassemble and reassemble a 1911 government model. A great design. John M. Browning made it so that it could be taken apart, completely apart, with its own parts, used as tools. And I'll show you as we go and talk about it, but I'll use the appropriate bench tool instead of most. I'm not going to use the firing pin to knock this out, which is what you're supposed to do. So anyway, one of the things I want to point out also is these round-headed pins all on this side. It looks nice, but there's a real use for it. They all are. You can push them with your hand when they come out this way. All of them, right? So everybody knows how to field strip. I just want to go ahead and get that off of there so we can do some things with it. Push that through, and we'll call that field stripped, okay? Now, what I want to do first is take the firing pin retainer and spring and extractor out. They're the only things you can take off on this. Use something soft and pointed to depress the firing pin. And as you do, put your finger over so that the firing pin doesn't go flying. Firing pin retainer comes down, and there's your firing pin. All right. Next is the extractor. Again, we just use something that's not going to mar your finishing. And just give that a little help. Pry it out. Super important also to keep clean because of the firing chamber gets really dirty, and it'll break if it gets too dirty. You want to pack this all up with hardened carbon oil. All right, to put it back together, we get the extractor back in. See, this slot there has to line up with the slot so that the firing pin retainer can go in there, and that holds the extractor and everything in place. So I'm going to work that back into the slot. Okay, got it. If at any time you need to stop the video to get things lined up on your bench or anything like that, then we're not going to slow down this video, just going to go right through it. There we go. And it's just that spraying pressure on the firing pin holds that in place. So that's all we can do to take apart the slide. On the other hand, the frame has a lot of parts in it, but it's relatively simple if you follow the order. Release the pressure on the mainspring housing by depressing the grip safety and the trigger. And you'll see right away that this has to come out. You want to relieve all that pressure so you can get all these parts apart. Let's take that out with a punch, although the Browning method is with the firing pin and something to hammer on it. We're going to use the appropriate size punch. Just want to get it right out of there. This pin has a groove right here, and that helps hold the mainspring housing, helps hold it in place. You can see right through there, right? We're going to get the mainspring housing out of that slot, set it aside, and next is the grip, the safety. It's what holds the grip safety in place. So just cock it up and start wiggling it. It comes right out. And your grip safety also just comes straight back out. You can see there's no pressure on the hammer. With this pin, we just take our left hand, push it, and then grab a hold of this side, and then the hammer comes out. Oh, that was the trigger return spring, this grip safety spring, and the disconnector spring. It fits in this slot right here, right there. Next is the sear and the disconnector. Again, we can push on this side, get it up a little bit, bring it out, and there we go. Disconnector, sear. The last couple of things you have to do are getting the trigger out. To get the trigger out, we have to take the magazine the magazine catch out. Now there's a screw here that we need to turn counterclockwise. The Browning tool is the end tip of the trigger return spring, that little hook there, and it works really well counterclockwise, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use a regular screwdriver. So what we're going to do is push from the other side pretty far, and as we're turning it left, and it turns all the way counterclockwise, and you can see in there that it catches on itself to hold it in place right now, and that it rides up inside here. Now, you do want to take this apart. It's really simple. Go clockwise, there's spring power, and take the spring and the screw out. There's no threads on this, so same thing, let's put it back together. Right, ready to go. Now, this is when the trigger comes out, because it's nothing else holding it in, just that magazine stuff. Right? Well, it's the same in reverse. So this is the last thing to come out. It's the first thing we put back in. It's in a slot right there. We do the same thing with the there it is. Magazine release goes in here, and we want to give it a little push from the other side so it fits up into that slot, get it right where it needs to be, and turn it clockwise, and that locks it in place. Check it, make sure everything's fine. Right after that, it's the only time people have difficulty because it's sort of a balancing act, but the disconnector and the sear go together like this. This angle here of the sear and disconnector go together. Now what I do is I hold them together like this and then drop them straight into the well here, and they usually hold together. Lined up. Take a finer punch and put it through the sear hole, kind of line these up. So you can get that sear lined up, because the disconnector has a really big hole in the middle of it. So we'll put the pin back in, and that was easy. Check it. It's working. Now at this point, I like to put the flat spring back in to that slot, and let's hold it in place by putting the mainspring housing about halfway in, halfway to 2/3, right? Next is the hammer. Hammer's going to have a little bit of spring pressure, so hold it in place, and the hammer pin goes in there. All right. Now, the grip safety, you can see it has a slot here for the hammer strut, so we got to get that lined up. It's really fairly simple. See that, how that hole is there? We're going to put the grip safety back in there, and this is where you can use a small tool to push that spring out of the way. That's all there is to it. Release the pressure on the hammer, get the mainspring housing back up in there. Remember, the spring goes in this way with the dimpled side here. So we'll put that down. We'll use the appropriate size punch. All right. That was it. Put your slide back on and you're ready to shoot.